Hello and welcome to part 2 of me painting miniatures from the game Sword and Sorcery. Today I'll show you how I paint a green and spooky Nightwalker from the Arcane Portal expansion set. The techniques I'll be using are quite simple and can yield a good result. I have removed mold lines on this miniature and it is now ready to be primed. I'm going to use contrast paints in this video, so I'll undercoat the Nightwalker in white Scar. I'll be right back once the undercoat is dry. Now, let's paint! There aren't that many features to this model. There is the model itself and this stone pedestal it's standing on. I think I'll start by painting the stone pedestal, and I'm using a base coat of Stormwomen fur. And remember, two thin coats are better than one thick coat. Following that base coat, I'll add a shade of Nuln Oil. I've given the shade plenty of time to dry. Next I'm adding a dry brush of Longbeard Grey, and I'm going to focus on the edges and the corners. Just gently so the edges catches the paint. Like so. There we are, the pedestal is complete. Next I'm taking my white Scar and look around the model for places that I've hit it with the dry brush, so I can fix it. Yeah. Just like down here, for example, we need a little white Scar to clean that up. Now comes the fun part. It's time to paint the actual model. And for this I'm starting with the mood green. I'm taking 1 drop of this green and 4 drops of water to make it look like a glaze or a shade, something in between that. Get some paint on your brush and add it to your palette. Then 4 drops of water. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the green is very thin right now, and that's perfectly alright. What we're going to do now is add a single base coat of the mood green over the entire model. And what we wanted to do is to run down the recesses just like a shade. The hard part about this is to not go back and paint over the areas you've already painted. Just add 1 coat. It doesn't matter how much of the white you can see through afterwards. Do this all over the model. The mood green is dry, and as you can see the color is much stronger in the recesses than on the raised areas. Next I'll add a contrast paint, and for that I'm using Hexwraith Flame. Give the paint a good shake, always do that. And then I'll just add some to my palette. I'm not going to thin this down, but it's easier to control how much I get on my brush if it's on my palette. Like so. Clean your brush. And start applying the contrast. Just all over. In the same method as before. Don't go back and apply a second coat. Just 1 coat all over the model. The contrast is dry, and you can see it already looks very ghostly and a little radioactive maybe. Next I'll add a dry brush, a light dry brush of Gorse Blaster Green. I'll do it all over the model, but I'll focus on the raised areas more heavily than the rest of the model. such as his face, his fingertips, and those horns, and the quote-unquote knee. When you're satisfied with the result, it's time for one final dry brush, and this time with Praxetti White. And for this I'm going to focus only on the raised areas, not the entire model. So fingers, face, the quote-unquote knee. Very gently. Peekaboo. With that final dry brush, the Nightwalker is complete. Now it's time to do the base, and I'll begin by painting the entirety of the base in Abaddon Black, straight from the pot. The base is now black. The next thing I want to do is to add some crackling paint, and I'm using Mordant Earth. But before I do that, I'll add a layer of Art Coat, which is a glossy varnish. The reason for this is that when you add a crackling paint over a varnish, it will make the cracks larger, giving it a better effect. So, grab your brush. And add a layer of Art Coat. Give it about 30 minutes to dry. Just a quick side note, if you want to make your Nightwalker look, well, glossy, shiny, you can add a coat of Art Coat. It's too shiny for my taste, so I won't do it, but you can if you will. The Art Coat is finally dry. I said in the last clip that it took about 30 minutes. That was clearly wrong, it took a little over an hour. But now we are ready to add the Mordant Earth. It's important to add it quite thick, so we get large cracks. Like so. Preferably do this before you go to sleep and let it dry overnight. It can take several hours for the paint to crack. It's been several hours and the cracking is complete. Now you can still see some of the shine beneath it, but we'll fix that later. For now I'm going to add some Astro Granite. I'll add it in random locations, preferably where the cracks are small. Oh, and I'm using an old brush for this. Just spread it out thinly. The Astro Granite is dry, and now I'll paint it over with Abaddon Black. I'm painting straight from the pot. The Abaddon Black has dried, so now I'll tie the different variations of black together with a shade of Null Oil. Just all over the base. I gave the shade about 20 minutes to dry. Now I'll add a heavy dry brush of Dawnstone. And once again, just all over the base. Following that, I'll add a light dry brush of Rag White. Just gently across the entire base. And with that, the base is complete. Now I just want to do one last thing, and that's paint the edge of the base black, because you can see there is some of the dry brushing that has hit the edges, and that doesn't look particularly well. So straight from the pot with Abaddon Black. Paint the entire rim of the base. The miniature is complete, but my client wants to play games with this miniature, so it will need some protection. And for that I'm using Ultra Varnish Matte from AK Interactive. However, this is quite strong, so I'm mixing it up a bit with the contrast medium in a 1:1 ratio. Mix it well together. And then add a single coat across the entire model. When you're finished, give it about 20 minutes to dry and the miniature will be complete. The miniature is now fully painted, and I thought it was a fun and quick process. As you can see, the varnish has removed the shine from the art coat we applied to the base earlier. Of course, you can paint your Nightwalker in whatever colors you find cool. Here is an alternative in a ghostly blue. To paint in this color, I swapped Mook Green for the Temple Guard Blue. Then I used Frosthearth Contrast instead of Hexwraith Flame. Then I dry brushed all over with Blue Horror and finally Praxetti White. The only real difference is that I dry brushed all over with the Praxetti White and not just on the raised areas like on the Ghostly Green one. These colors can be used on anything ghostly. You can even mix the two colors and make some cool looking Nighthorns for Age of Sigmar. Only the imagination determines the limit. I hope my client is satisfied with my work, and I hope that you, my dear viewer, found my guide useful. If you like this video and want to see more, then please leave a like and hit the subscribe button. Also, click the bell icon if you want to be notified of my uploads. Thank you for watching, I'll catch you in the next video. Happy painting!